So I'm joined by former Peterborough United defender Ryan Bennett. Ryan, how are things? Are you enjoying this moment in time of no football?
Nah, it's not too bad. Obviously, it's it's the same for everyone. I think I've been home longer than maybe a lot of other people. Obviously, the football season the game got called off, and literally from that day, haven't been outside really, apart from obviously to exercise and do some running. So it's been tough in terms of keeping fit. Obviously, it's always a lot harder on your own. We have a great support staff, obviously at Leicester now. They're always in contact, always sending stuff, always there for guidance. So it's nice to have that. But like I said, you're waking up the same. You're just by yourself. Obviously, you have the family in the house, but you're by yourself. You're trying to keep fit. You're trying to do things, and it's the uncertainty of not knowing when you're going back, how it's going to play out, what's going to happen this season, what's going to happen next season. Obviously, for my position, I'm on loan to the end of the season, so we'll see what happens with that. And everything's just up in the air. But it's the same for everyone, so it's not just me. But like you say, you've got to make the most of it. Enjoy it. I've done more housework than I've ever done in my life, so I'm not very good at it. So I've been trying to add some strings to the bow, but it's not gone too great. But as I said, there's nothing else to really do. But you've got to try and make the best of it as you can, And like you say, it's important to stay at home and do what you're told. I've seen a lot of people, to be fair, who don't normally exercise, I don't think, and seem to be out on the road, and that's just near me. So, it might not be the same for everyone, but I say you've got to respect the rules, and hopefully we can get out of it sooner rather than later.
So I wanted to have a chat with you, obviously, about your time at Peterborough. You joined from Grimsby. What can you remember about that actual transfer, and how did he end up at Peterborough?
It was sort of a conundrum of different things. You can probably remember some of the stuff just as well as me, but there was sort of interest from a little bit before, which never really materialised. Obviously, Mike Nall was a manager at Grimsby, he really looked after me, to be honest, in regards of a new contract, sort of making me sort of captain at the time, obviously at such a young age. And it was a big sort of step forward. I was enjoying my time there, enjoying my football there. And then Peterborough sort of come of interest. And at that time, Peterborough sort of were in League Two at the first time when they first started pushing, obviously signing some good players and making some good acquisitions to sort of progress through the leagues. And it was a club where that was looking to progress with the type of player that I was at the time. Obviously, just a young lad, no one's ever took a chance, and I've been released from sort of a better club as such. Obviously don't look like that now, but at the time the academy was good at Ipswich and stuff. I was being released from there to then go to Grimsby, sort of getting a chance there, and then having that interest. And it kind of cooled off a little bit, and that was sort of the way it was. Obviously, speaking to the manager, Mike Nall, I was happy there. Sort of said, as I said, he looked after me. And things had gone like that. And then there was actually a game that I played in, and I don't think I've ever actually said it. And it was a corner, and Guy Branston. It was funny. Guy Branston turns to me during the corner and says, "I spoke to Barry Fry about you," and that was kind of it. And I've never really seen him since. And it was never really sort of picked up, never spoke about. And it's one of the things that you look back on now and you think to yourself, he knew more than me. And then, like you say, things developed at Grimsby. The results weren't as good as maybe what they wanted. Obviously, at that level, money's important, and I was sort of a sellable asset at the time that they had. And you look at it, and I think sort of Mike Nall leaving, maybe I had a part to play in that. I think maybe the chairman at Grimsby at the time had sort of thought about utilising the money that he could get to sort of benefit them, and put them in a better position than what they were in. Obviously, at the time, Grimsby weren't actually bad players. Obviously, not to me, I was a young lad, but we had some players come in, and it's probably the same at a lot of League Two, League One clubs. You get players who come in from sort of the step above and sort of take more money than what the players already there are, and sometimes you didn't get the same commitment and the same sort of, not effort, because every player puts effort in, that's the wrong word, but things don't work out, and there's not maybe the 100% commitment off the field as maybe what the players who are there sort of grafting, trying to earn their way the other way. And that sort of position we found ourselves in a little bit, and I think I've seen other people speak about it Grimsby before, and I think the chairman, the manager maybe spoke. Obviously, the manager didn't agree. He didn't want me to go. The chairman obviously wanted me to go. And there was a bit of a thing. I was in my mindset that I wasn't going. And I actually got a text message. This is all within 24 hours, really. There was nothing, no really conversations. I knew the interest, but from 3-4 months before this. And literally I got a phone call or a text about 10:30 at night. And it just said, it was from a good friend of mine who worked at Grimsby. And it just said, keep your head, things could happen in the morning. And I was, you sit there and you think to yourself, I don't know what he's on about. I just moved into my first ever house, a little place in Grimsby, and near the training ground. I was sort of settled there. And then I thought, we're 10, 11 o'clock at night, obviously there's nothing can happen there. So normal day, I wake up the next morning thinking, I'm in my training kit, because I used to live close, where you go straight to the training ground. So I got a text message. We never used to be in it till 10, 15 or something like that. They just want to see you in the office before training, which is at the ground. So you have to drive the other way, and I was like, all right, no worries. So I'm there, going normal day. And I used to get on with everyone there. So I used to be, as I said, because I was so young going there, I used to spend a lot of my time in the offices, and where we used to do our work as college students, the same as the youth team guys would do there. So we used to do all our work at the ground. So I used to spend a lot of time there. So anytime no one went in, how's everyone, speaking, just normal. Got pulled in the office, a tiny shoebox kind of office. And it wasn't actually the chairman that told me. And it literally was as simple as, we've accepted a bid from Peterborough. We want you to go. They want you down there by, I can't remember what time it was now. They want you down there by a certain time because they're training in the afternoon. I'm in my training kit in Grimsby, and I was thinking to myself, what's going on here? Obviously, I was a young boy. My missus was at work. I didn't know it. No one knew anything. And then it was like, right, so you need to get in the car, and we want you to go down there and talk with them now. But bearing in mind, it's quite unusual because at this time I had no agent. I didn't really, not believe in agents, but I had an agent at a certain time at Grimsby, and obviously didn't stay together. And I was at a certain mindset of, what's he going to do for me? If I'm going to do it, I can do it for myself. Like the way I play, the way that I sort of perform on the pitch will benefit, will sort of be the reason that I leave or the reason I don't leave. And it's simple as that. And I actually went down there. So anyway, so long story short, really. But so I spent the time, so I got in my car, I was thinking, my head's all over the place. And I'm still in my Grimsby training kit. And I'm thinking, they're telling me I've got to go there now. So I set off. Obviously, never really drove many places before. So the sat nav, I'm just trying to follow it. And then I'm getting phone calls every 20 minutes. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? I'm thinking, relax. Like, I'm making my way down there now. And there was sort of an urgency to do it. And at the time, I was in my head, I'm not rushing. So if they want me there at a certain time, that's their option. It wasn't deadline day. It was nothing. And I was like, oh, fine. So anyway, got all the way there. It took longer than what it should have because I made it. So drove in. And I remember just pulling in the car park at the stadium, literally on my own, still in my Grimsby training kit. And I was thinking to myself, what am I doing here? I've never done any of this before. Never done it, never experienced it. Thinking, don't know how it works and what's going to go on. So I said, he rang me again. I said, I'm here now. I said, I'll go in. So I go in and I just say to the receptionist at the time, I don't know, it might have even been you there. And I said, I'm here to see Barry Fry. And that was literally as simple as that. And then obviously, Baz comes downstairs loud. I was a young boy, like thinking, this is crazy. And, went up to the room, spoke as you do, was negotiating different things. And at that time, as I said earlier, Peterborough was a club that was not making a name for it, but it was probably a bit early for that. But giving young players a chance that maybe wouldn't have got the chance in other circumstances. And it was never about money. And that wasn't just me. That's not me saying that trying to be, a nice guy or whatever. That was 99% of players that ever went there to make it and progressed on. That was the mindset that we all had. It wasn't, if you made it about money, you wouldn't have gone. It's as simple as that. So literally it was in there. I think it was literally £100 more than what I was earning at Grimsby. That's literally what it was. And I'm sitting there, but obviously everyone at Grimsby is telling me like all these times, you're going to move, this amount of money. And I'm thinking, if I had that money, I don't know what I'd do. So I'm going in this meeting, I'm thinking myself, they're in the championship, I'm thinking, could be a good offer. So I'm sat down a bit nervous. And then he offered me, and I thought, this is not what I thought. This is not what I thought it was going to be. So obviously, as I said, I was sat on my own, no agent, nothing. And I was there, and then obviously Darryl wasn't there. Darryl was probably abroad, I guess, business and stuff. And I was sort of saying to Baz, I spoke to Darren Ferguson, and he was like, "How's it going?" I said, it's not what I thought it would be. In terms of the money, the way it is, the way they're talking. I said, and before this, the chairman's on the phone. Obviously, I've told Baz I'm not going to sign for that. So the chairman rings, and he's talking to Baz, but he said, "I've got the lad here. You know how he is. I've got the lad here in front of me. He's saying this, he's saying that. He's not happy with this." And he's like, "I don't know, And I'm sitting there, literally not intimidated, but a little bit nervous and not really knowing what's going on. And so he passes the phone to me, and Darryl's talking, "How are you? Yeah, good, yeah." And he's talking, and there's always one thing he says. And I'm probably the age, near the age he was when he was on that phone call to me. So I understand what he means more now. He said to me, he went, "Look, we're giving you an opportunity." He went, "We know if you don't want to take it, that's your idea, your problem, your faults." He said, "But sometimes you've got to put your balls on the line." That's the way he said it. Sometimes you've got to put your balls on the line and make a decision to get where you want to be. That's what he's, and this is his work. That's what I did in terms of him. That's what I did. And that's what got me where I am today. If I never done that, I wouldn't be where I am. Yeah. And at the time I was, it was a phone call where I was just like, thinking, he's just trying to get me to sign it. So I was like, all right, yeah. Put the phone down. Said to Baz. I said, all right. He said, "What did he say?" I said, "He said this and that. Put your balls on the line. You need to make a decision. I'm 30. I think he was 32 because I'm sure he said, "I'm 32. I won't say the next bit, but I've got a lot of money." And I put my balls on the line. So, which made sense. So I said to Baz, "Look, Baz, nothing's changed. You're telling me, the chairman's on the phone telling me, all right, if you sign today, you're playing Saturday." I'd already spoke to the manager who told me I wasn't playing Saturday. So I knew that. And they was training. And they wanted me to train. But as I said, I'm still in my Grimsby kit. I'm upstairs in the office. All the lads are downstairs because you used to get changed at the ground back then. And I was just in a weird position. And it was literally, they wanted me to sign that day. I had nothing with me, no clothes, nothing. And they wanted me to sign and literally stay there. And I was like, I'm not happy with everything. So I said, I'll decline the offer and I'll go back. He was like, no problem, you go. And that was it. And I thought, that's me done. So I drove back home. Nothing really got said, spoke to some people. I said, we didn't agree on anything. Heading back to Grimsby where I live. Same thing. I was in my house again that night. And then Darren Ferguson rings me. He says, "Benno, what happened?" I said, it's just the way, the meeting didn't go too good. I said, I didn't accept the terms and everything like that. I said, and we made the point where it wasn't really about money. It was more about the progression in terms of structuring the deal. Mm-hmm. I had obligations from Grimsby, obviously, of having no money in terms of buying a house that I bought there was subsidised by Grimsby. So I had that to sort out. And there was loads of other things that would have meant I was way out of pocket and wasn't really set. It would have took a bit of time. So I explained that situation to him about, the house, the sort of the structures that I had that I just set up. And he was really good on the phone to me, to be honest. And he says, right, he says, "Come back tomorrow and we'll get it sorted properly and then it'll be done." So I thought, all right. But he said, bring some gear this time, just in case, because if you sign, then, you can stay in the hotel. You go to the game tomorrow. And he said, "You're obviously not going to play," which is fine. So I said, "Yeah, no problem." So same thing. Next day, I drove all the way there. I got there. Barry Fry's got the same contract that he offered me yesterday, printed out with a pen. He said, "Are you ready to sign?" I said, "No." I said, "I didn't." I said, "We've already spoke about this." I said, this was yesterday. "Oh, well, I got told you're coming down here to sign." And that's the way business works. I understand that now, but at the time it was different. And I was thinking, not again, So then again, Darren Ferguson speaks to me. And then I think maybe he speaks to Barry Fry or something like that. And literally, as I said earlier, it wasn't about money. I think maybe it's £50 more that I got in the end, or £100 more. It was nothing. But it was just the way the structure was in terms of basically I had a loan from Grimsby to enable me to purchase the house that I needed to buy. because once you signed a pro contract at Grimsby, you couldn't live in digs. So it was a complicated situation. But so Barry Fry actually took the loan. So he bought the loan from Grimsby. Then obviously I had to pay him back. So it's very complicated, and there's a lot of like personal stuff to it. But like it was just a hard sort of conversation to have. And literally that was, as I said, that was sorted, smoothed out. Things were put in place. Obviously he took that over, which was the main sort of stumbling block. And then I had to sell my house to move to Peterborough because I couldn't afford to just move and buy a house. They didn't have money. They put me in the hotel, obviously, for the first 3 months. So it enabled me to sort of save and work different things out, which was obviously something they did for me. And then, yeah, literally, so we agreed it from there. And then obviously signed, went there. I think it was initially on loan, but the deal was kind of, it was done. Obviously, during that time, we could only go on loan and sign permanently. I think it was in January. So the deal was done. I went on loan. Then it got made permanent in January. So it was a very long story of how I signed. But if you wanted to know it, then now you know it all.
Do you remember your debut? Do you remember anything about the first game you played?
First game I played, I come on as a sub. I think it was against Barnsley. And I'm sure Ian Hume was up front. And I remember sitting, I was on the bench, obviously, and I remember sitting there thinking, coming on, I think we might have even been losing 2-1. And I remember just stood on the side, and obviously this was the championship at the time, so it wasn't, people might look at it and think, oh, it couldn't be that bad. I'm telling you, like, this was a championship team playing in the championship. I'd been playing in League Two as a young boy. It was a big thing, it was a big thing for me. And I remember sitting there on the side and I was thinking, he's cool, he's putting me on here. As a defender, you don't, in these situations, you don't really come on.
Mm.
So obviously I trained for a couple of weeks and I was like, you don't doubt yourself, but there's always that thing of, am I ready? How am I going to find it? I was playing against men. I was not a kid, but a sort of a boyish adult. Obviously coming on, and I think I remember 25 minutes, something like that. And I remember after the game, that's probably the main thing it did for me was giving me that, oh, I've done it now. And that was probably a good time to actually do it, to come on for 20 minutes instead of just going straight into start. Because obviously people don't understand, when you're nervous, when things are not normal for you, the warm-up then becomes harder, you're breathing more, you get a dry mouth. Players will know what I'm talking about when I say you get a real dry mouth when you're making your debut and you're nervous. You get all of that. So I kind of passed that out of the way within that sort of 20-minute, 25-minute window, wherever it was. So it was good in terms of that. And then obviously from there was kind of, I played sort of obviously a lot more. The season didn't go too great, obviously, in the end. It turned out that Darren Ferguson sort of left straight away, which didn't do me any favours. But and then from there, obviously, it was probably a period of up and down, different managers. As I said, didn't get along with some, did the others, and that's the way it was. That's not just for me, that's for every single player, for every league and every club. There's certain things you do, certain people like you, certain people don't. And that's how it was. But it's obviously a time I look back on, and it was amazing, to be fair. Like the whole setup there it wasn't just about football there, it's hard to sort of comprehend the people you're talking. And when we used to go to the change room, we go straight down. I always remember it, straight down that corridor, through the door. I used to be in your office 24/7. That's just why I was always there. Was always there, messing about, laughing, and that's why it was so good. Everyone was there every day, just laughing. We'd go there. Everyone was together. It was brilliant. But yeah, for a debut, I do remember.
Who obviously you played with Gabby Zakwani as a centre half. Was he? What was he like to play alongside? Did you learn much from him? I mean, he was I suppose FIFA would describe him, or Football Manager would describe him as a no-nonsense defender in comparative terms to probably a ball-playing defender like yourself. Did you learn a lot about the physicality from him?
Yeah, and that's sort of something you can take. I mean, I played with a few players, obviously, during that time, here and there. Enjoyed playing with Russ, obviously, at centre-half. We did that a couple of times at Norwich as well, when we both ended up going there, and I enjoyed playing with him, actually. But Gabs was, I wouldn't say underrated, because he was very, very appreciated at Peterborough. But I think if I never had him and the qualities that he had, it wouldn't have enabled me to sort of develop the way that I did. Because there used to be a lot of things that he would take care of, probably without people realising and watching and knowing. I would always know if the ball was coming the middle, down the middle, my side, a little bit, and you're thinking, playing against a bit of a big boy, I think you're finding it a bit tough. He took the pressure away from all of that. Like, sometimes I'd sit there and I'd think, he wasn't the tallest guy, he wasn't the biggest guy, but I promise you that he was solid, like hard as like his head, like it was like a brick. And trust me, I felt his teeth go in the side of my head, so I know how hard it actually was. But yeah, it was brilliant for me. Like, and the relationship that we had on the pitch as well was sort of unbelievable. I knew, and it sounds like it should happen because this is normal football, but it doesn't work like that. And I just knew if I was going for the ball and it went past me or whatever, I knew that he was there. And that's something that you have in the back of your mind that gives you so much confidence before you go out, because I knew that I could the ball comes down the line, goes over my head. I just know he's there. And that's just the way that we worked. And that was down to, him as the way he played, and also the work that we did on the training pitch with the managers and stuff like that. So it wasn't all about, just me and him, obviously, but the qualities that he had were probably the qualities that I lacked a lot back then. So, as I said, he took the bulk of every sort of physical battle and probably disheartened about 75% of the players that he played, that we come up against.
Yeah. So
by the time they come near me, I think their head was hurting, the back of their legs were hurting, and they didn't, honestly, it sounds crazy, but they didn't react the same, They're probably thinking, I don't want to go near him, you know what I mean? He's kicking me all over the gap. But then he was quick, he was strong, he was good in the air, and I just knew he's there, you know what I mean? And as I said, I used to get the ball a little bit more back then than probably what I do now, but there's certain things that we worked on. But as I said, as a defensive partner for the time that we had, and sort of the quick sort of progression that I made was a lot down to the partnership and sort of the confidence that he enabled me to have playing next to him.
Yeah. If not him, who was the best player you played with during your time with Posh?
A defender or anyone?
Anyone.
Best player I played with. Some good players, very, very good players. I used to love playing with Craig Walcott. I used to love it. Honestly, it's the same thing. A bit same with Gabs. There was times when he must have hated it because I was like, Craig, stay in, and he'd go in and then he'd go back out and he'd come in again, and I used to be like, I like this kid. So I used to love playing with him. Obviously, Grant McCann, literally, he was brilliant for us because he'd just sit in front of his passing ball and he'd just put it where he wants. McLean and Mikel as a partnership were frightening. Obviously, Boydie, Tommy Rowe, unbelievable player, probably massively underrated as well. But there's sort of two players that come to my mind in terms of talent. One's Lee Tomlin, and the other one is Paul Taylor. And that's probably not one that everyone was expecting, but in terms of talent and the way that they come in, Tom had come a couple of times when he was at Rushden. He trained a little bit, and we was like, "Just kid." Never see him for a while, and he come back, and we was like, and he was obviously everyone knows how good he is, but. And then the same with Paul Taylor. I always remember the first time I'd actually played against Paul Taylor when I was at Grimsby. We played in a competition in Barnstaple, which was down south. And we played against a Belgian team. I don't know who they were. And we had a lad called Paul Linwood, who was centre half. And I was playing the first half with him because it's pre-season. We played 245 different teams.
Yep.
And there was this little stocky kid with a bald head. And he goes, I know him. He said, I think he was at Chester maybe. Linus was at Chester, I think, and maybe Towers was there. And he went, I'm telling you now, he's unbelievable. And I was looking and thinking, he's a small boy. I said, nah. Well, after that 45 minutes, I thought to myself, Jesus, this kid is crazy. I never see him again for, I don't know, years. And then the day that he turned up in the changing room at Peterborough, I felt like Paul Linwood. I was like, lads, this guy is unbelievable. And I remember him sat there in the changing room, a lad from local Scouse lad from Liverpool, broad accent, and I thought, the way he walks around didn't look didn't look like coordinated and stuff like that. But I'm saying to these boys, I'm telling you, man, watch. I remember the first few sessions in the first week, and we're doing these sessions, and everyone's like, "Whoa, who is this kid?" And obviously, you know, he's had his off-field issues, whatever. But I think Peterborough probably got to see the best of him at certain times, and obviously then he left and moved on. And for one reason or the other, you know, things haven't worked out too great. But as for talent, he was unbelievable and managed correctly. And maybe taken away from some situations that he was in, I think he'd have been a top player. But, you know, for certain reasons, that doesn't happen. That's not just him, you know, that happens to a lot of players. But yeah, Lee Tomlin, in terms of ability, awareness, you know, he wasn't underrated because he's very rated, but like very misunderstood in terms of him as a person, him as an athlete. You know, teams will always come play, say, he's not that quick, he's not that strong. Trust me, he can run, and he's a strong boy. And I think people are starting to see the best of him now. You know that now he's obviously a bit leaner now, but he was still the same back then, and he was a bit misunderstood as a kid. You know, he's a top guy, and you know that, and everyone at Peterborough knows that who's seen him over a period of time. And it's nice to see that he's actually, you know, back at it and back involved at Cardiff now. And sort of flying, you know, I love seeing the clips of him when he's doing these things because I've been seeing that for years. So I'd say, yeah, so I'd probably say Lee Tomlin as an all-round sort of watching him when he first came and seeing what he done in games. But like you say, it's a tough one because at certain and different times there's been some brilliant players, you know, at Peterborough. You know, it's some of them probably are way underrated. Some of them obviously overrated, but there was an influx of players when I was there, a big group of very, very talented players, and some have gone up and some have sort of plateaued, some have gone a little bit down. But, you know, the group of players that we had is probably one of the most hard-working, talented, but mostly together. You know, there was a massive culture there at the time for everyone to be sort of around each other a lot longer than what happens these days. You know, we used to spend the majority of every single day together for a long time instead of what it's like now.
And in terms of the playoff final, obviously everyone remembers, you know, obviously how good the performance was. As a defender, when you're coming up against a side like Huddersfield and you saw Jordan Rhodes wasn't playing, did that give you a boost ahead of kickoff?
That was the biggest surprise. I actually remember it. And there was, even like, well, previous to that, I wasn't even playing at the start of the season, but we played them, and it was always a little bit of needle, you know, between us and them when we played. And so them and MK Dons, I would always look at and be a bit like, you know, we want to do these. I don't know why and what it was, but it just was the way it was. And obviously seeing their team that day, obviously Rhodes was flying at the time, and obviously they had Benica Phobie on loan, who was just a young lad at the time who obviously has gone on and done unbelievable things in football. And I actually played with him a couple of years ago now. So to see that team sheet come in and sort of realise he's not playing was, I don't know if it was a massive boost, but it was a shock. And maybe that's why they did it. I don't know why they did it or why they didn't do it or what the reasons were, whether he was carrying injury, I don't know. But in terms of working on something all week and working on players all week, and when you get there and it changes little things. And I think Bennett is a totally different player to what Rhodesy was. So it was difficult. They had a really, really good team. But I also remember when we went there and we see, I think they put something on the seats, all the seats, we see all this thing on the seats. And I remember going there thinking, you know, all these things on the seats. We've got a stadium there. We're sitting there. They've got everything on their seat, trying to make this big thing. And sometimes that spurs players on. And that's what it did. We see all this and we thought, nah, like, you can't be coming in and having this big party when we're here. Like, it was like we wasn't there. They thought, we're halfway there already. We're 75% done. All we've got to do, roll up, we'll turn these over. Because they had a good team at the time. We'll roll up, we'll turn these over, and then we'll get promoted. And there was a big thing, and we was just like, nah. And that was the group, as I said earlier, the group that we had a big sort of togetherness and mental sort of capacity to deal with them situations. We've always shown it. Like, look at the MK Dons game, obviously the first leg to the second leg, we always had that sort of togetherness, the mental attributes to deal with them situations. And again, that's what we did. We went there, dealt with the situation. And I remember the first 25 minutes, 30 minutes thinking, it's going to be a long day, this. Like, it's going to be a long day. We was not struggling, but they was having some good times. And obviously, we went on to win and end up being a sort of fantastic end to the season. But sort of props has to go to the managers, the coaches that year, because there was actually a spell 3-4 weeks before the season had finished where we didn't shut down as a team, but there was an idea and a thinking of, if you can look back and you'll see the team sheets of individual players resting at certain times within the last 3-4 weeks of the season and having some time off to then have a 4-week build-up into the semi-final and final to make sure we was at maximum potential of our sort of capabilities at that time. And that's probably not what other teams didn't do. So whether people know that, I don't know, but there was a lot behind the scenes that were done in the right way to enable us to be sort of peaking at that right time, and obviously ended up getting us where we got to. So.
You mentioned obviously Darren previously, obviously back as manager of Peterborough at the moment. He's obviously got a real affinity with the football club. What was he like in the dressing room? Everyone sees him obviously on the touchline. What was he like as a young player in the dressing room? How did he help you?
Oh, he was brilliant. To be honest, I always say keep saying underrated. It's the wrong word, really. Like, he's never had the chances that maybe that he should or deserved. As I always say to people at the time, they say, "Oh, who's your favourite coaches to work for? The favourite this, the favourite that." Always come back to him because he probably understands players differently. Obviously, I worked with Gary Johnson there as well, and sort of Jim Gannon, and they were two sort of opposite managers to what he was. And if they didn't understand you, you was in serious trouble. Like, and that would happen to me. Like, there's no secret about Gary Johnson not liking me, wanting to get rid of me. Like, that's the way it was, and that's the way that some managers are. But Darren Ferguson could sort of look at players individually. A lot of managers would have an idea or a perception of a player and a mentality that they should have and the way they should act. Darren Ferguson, that's where he was different. He'd understand, like I say, he'd understand Lee Tomlin. He'd understand Nicky or Jose when he come and things weren't going great. He'd understand Grant McCann, who was an older lad. He'd understand me being a young lad. He'd understand Robbie. He'd understand all these different people in different places and different positions and deal with it. And that's something that probably doesn't get spoken about. Obviously, there's not really times you do speak about it, it's just the way it is. But he understood everybody, always done things to enable everyone to be together. There was times where we'd lost. We'd come into training, he'd say, right, we're all going for lunch together today. We're all going to eat together tonight. We'd have some music on. We'd all be sat around in a circle, be talking, chatting, whatever. There was times like that just kept everyone there, and he was sort of big on that. And in terms of around the training pitch, on the training ground, he was very involved. I mean, I don't know what he's like now. This is a little bit older, but in the little possessions and the little sort of things we used to do, he used to join in. He used to think to myself, this geezer's a player. Like, he'll never give the ball away, really. And so there was a big sort of like respect for seeing that and knowing that, he's not just preaching something that he believes up here. He can actually do it as well. So he was brilliant in terms of that and sort of getting the lads going pre-game, during the week. He'd always have certain things at different times that would always hit the spot at the right time. And say the semi-final of the playoffs was another thing. I think whether you done it, Neil. I think Neil maybe produced the sort of video that we had, and that song would always stick with me. The Adele song that was over that video, like they're little things that happened at different times that sort of had a massive impact, and probably still have impacts now. Like every time I hear that song, I just think of that moment, and that's just the way it is. And that might be me, or that might be the same for 75% of the players that played with us at that time. But they're the little things that he was doing that sort of no one gets to see, no one gets to know about, and as I said, I think the biggest thing was in understanding individuals and having a philosophy of the way that he wants to play. And obviously, his time at Preston didn't go well. That's probably the biggest thing for him that if you speak to him, probably bugs the hell out of him. And obviously, having his dad as one of the best managers in history, really, having that and always sort of being, that's Alex Ferguson's son. And he's done unbelievable to make sort of the progression that he has and sort of done what he's done in the game off his own back. And it's all off his own back. Everyone might think, get self-made. He doesn't get no help. He's all by himself. So, like you say, I think it was criminal that he never got a chance at different clubs at different times. Obviously, went to Doncaster, done well. Come back to Peterborough, always does well. I think it's just, if he had the right tools at the right club, I think he'll be doing a lot better than some managers are doing with sort of the stuff they've got. But that's just me. I could be wrong. That's the way I think.